أولى ثانوي، فرصة جديدة وحلم جديد وهنعديها بالتأكيد، وهنعديها بالتأكيد. أولى ثانوي.
Dear secondary stage students, year 1, welcome to our English program and welcome to our channel Madrasetna 3 under the supervision of the Ministry of Education. أعزائي طلبة وطلبات الصف الأول الثانوي، أهلا بكم حلقة جديدة وقناتكم مدرستنا 3 تحت إشراف وزارة التربية والتعليم. Today we are going to continue Unit 8. We are going to take the language or the grammar part. It's if conditional. I'm sure that you know this grammar well and you will enjoy it. Let's start together. Our objectives for this lesson: by the end of this lesson, you will be able to use conditional clause correctly. You're going to express habits, facts, probability, improbability, or regret using conditional clause. So what's a conditional clause? Conditional clause or if clause are used to express the action in the main clause that can only take place if a certain condition happens. Of course, we have many kinds or many types of if. We have if conditional type 0, type first, second, and third. Look at this picture. What can you say about using if? What can you say about this picture using if? Can you say any sentence using if to describe this picture? Of course, this picture has a pot. Inside this pot, there is some water, and the water is boiling. What can we say about this picture? We can say, if water boils, it turns into steam. If water boils, it turns into steam. So this sentence expresses what? It expresses a fact. It's a fact that when water boils, it turns into steam. And here, as you see, we use if type 0, which means the present simple and the present simple, boils and turns. If water boils, it turns into steam. Look at another picture. How can you describe this picture using if? If you look at this woman, she is having headache. She suffers from headache. What do you do when you have headache? Here, for example, we can say, if I feel a headache, I take an aspirin. It's my habit. If I feel a headache, I take an aspirin. So this kind express habit. So again, we use the present simple. If I feel in the present simple, I take in the present simple. So as you see here again, we use the 0 conditional, present to present, to express habit. Look at this beautiful girl. What can you say about her using if? Of course, she is studying hard. So what can we say about her? If I study hard, I will succeed. Or if she studies hard, she will succeed. So here we talk about a probability, something which may happen in the future, or something which is sure to happen in the future. Probability. If I study, I'm sure I will succeed. Let's look at another picture. How can you describe this picture? Here we have a young lady who is going to university. We say, if I get high marks, I will join a good university. So if I get high marks, I will join. Again, here we have probability. Here we have another picture. How can you describe it? Here we have some members of a team who are playing basketball. So we can say, if I were tall, I would play basketball. What does this mean? It means I am not tall and I cannot play basketball. So here we use type 2, past simple, and would when we want to express improbability, something which is impossible or improbable to happen. So here we use the past simple and would. It expresses something which is improbable or is impossible to happen. Look at this picture, a man who ate a lot of fatty foods. Look, we have French fries, we have a lot of sweets and things which can make his heart, he has a heart attack as you see in the picture. So here he regrets that he has eaten this kind of food. So what can we say about him? If I hadn't eaten too much food, I wouldn't have been ill. So here we use if type 3, which expresses regret. It expresses regret. هو هنا بيندم على إن he had eaten. فعلا he had eaten a lot of food, so he had a heart attack. He had been ill. So here we use the third conditional to express something that happened in the past, but I regret it. Okay? Now let's look at the zero conditional and summarize what we have said up till now. We said that the zero conditional means we use if plus present simple. Present simple to express what? To express facts or habit. Like when we said if you boil water, it turns into steam. Or if water freezes, it turns into ice. This is a fact again. If you heat water, it boils. Again, this is a fact. If I feel tired, I usually go to bed. This is a habit. So when we wanted to express fact or habit, we use present simple, present simple. This is zero conditional. Again, we can use the zero conditional, and instead of using if, we can use when. So we can say metals expand when they are heated. So instead of saying if they are heated, we can say when they are heated. Or when water freezes, it turns into ice. And instead of saying if water freezes, we can say when water freezes, it turns into ice. So we can use when instead of if. Let's look at this example. If the bark of the tree is destroyed, the tree, of course, this is a fact. If the outer covering, the bark is the outer covering of the tree. So if the cover of the tree is destroyed, the tree dies. So here we have present simple, present simple. This is a fact. If the outside of the tree is destroyed, the tree dies. This is a fact. Question number 2, water freeze if the temperature 0 or below. Of course, here again, it's a fact. So we say water freeze, present simple, if the temperature is. Here we use again the present simple because it's a fact. Now let's look at the first conditional. What does the first conditional express? It expresses something that can happen in the future. So we use if and the present simple. Then in the second clause, we use will, can, may, plus infinitive. We can use will, we can use can or may, plus verb infinitive. So we can say, for example, of course here we use it to express promise or threat or probability. If she has enough time, tomorrow she will type the report. So here, if she has time, she will. She promises that she will. If I have time, I will type the report. So I promise you that I will. Or something probable, something that may happen in the future. If I earn some money, I will go abroad. If I earn some money, I will. So it's something probable, something I may do in the future. If I earn, I may go or I will go. Of course, will is more certain than may. May is something that probable or perhaps it will happen. Will is more certain. Look at this example about if type 1. If they extract a thin piece of wood from the tree, they would calculate, can calculate, have calculated, or might have calculated. Look at the word if. What is the tense of the verb after it? We have the word extract. This is present simple. So here we must use can, will, or may. So here we have the word can. So we can use can. If they extract a thin piece of wood from the tree, they can calculate its age. Now let's have another example. Let's have another example here about the first conditional. The first conditional expresses if present simple imperative sentence. What's imperative sentence? Imperative sentence اللي هي بنقول عليها الجملة الأمرية. So we can say, we can use imperative sentence in the first conditional. If you have a headache, take an aspirin. Here I say, take an aspirin. This is imperative sentence. This is an order. If you have a headache, take an aspirin. So instead of saying, if I have a headache, I will take, هنا أنا بستخدم الجملة الأمرية على طول. Take an aspirin. If you have a headache, take an aspirin. يبقى if type 1. In the first sentence, we use the present simple. In the second sentence, we can use will, can, or may, and we can use imperative. What's imperative? It's order. It's the verb to order someone to do something. Take an aspirin. جملة هنا أمرية. Okay, if you have a headache, take an aspirin. Another sentence, if you come across Ali at the supermarket, ask him. Again, here we use imperative or order. Ask him to phone me. So again, when the verb after if is present simple, we can use imperative. It means that we order someone, or we ask someone, or we request someone to do something. Take an aspirin or ask him to phone me. Look at these examples. If you meet Ahmed, this book. Again, here we wanted to use, after if, we have the word meet. This is present simple. So here we can use will, may, or can, and we can use imperative. So can we use will here in this sentence? Of course not. We cannot use will. Why? Because here we don't have a subject. If here I have a subject, if you meet Ali, you will tell him. أو you may tell him, you can tell him. لكن هنا أنا ما عنديش subject, I'm going to use the imperative, give him. I will say, give him. If you meet Ahmed, give him. This is the imperative sentence. The second conditional. What is the second conditional? When we use the second conditional, we use the past simple, and then we use would, could, or might. But remember, when we use the second conditional, it doesn't express the past. The structure is past, but it doesn't express the past. It expresses the present, but something improbable. Look at this example. We use this to express something improbable in the present. If she had wings, she would fly. Here, I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about the present time. If she had wings, she would fly. What does this mean? It means that she doesn't have wings, so she cannot fly. So this is present meaning, but the structure is in the past to express improbability. So here we use she had. If she had wings, she would fly. Like when I say, for example, if she were a scientist, she could do experiments. If she were a scientist, it means that she isn't a scientist. Here, when I say if she were a scientist, it means that she is not a scientist and she cannot do experiment. If I say if I were rich, I would buy a villa, it means that I am not rich and I cannot buy a villa. When I say if I were tall, I would play basketball, it means I am not tall and I cannot play basketball. So the second conditional, the structure is past, but it expresses the present. Okay? So here it expresses improbability. Improbability, شيء غير محتمل الحدوث. Let's look at these examples. If they had, here we have the past simple. If they had enough money, they, of course, when we have the past simple, we use would, can, or might have, we use would. So we use would plus infinitive. Okay? Now let's look at the third conditional. The third conditional is the only one which expresses the past. This is the only type of if conditional which expresses the past. So we use if plus past perfect. What is the past perfect? Had plus past participle. And then we use would have plus past participle. Here we regret something that we did in the past. we use this type to express regret or past wish. Something we wished we had done, I wish I had done in the past, or something I had done and I regret it. For example, if she had studied last year, she would have succeeded. What does it mean? It means that she didn't study and she didn't succeed. So she regrets. She regrets that. هي ندمانة على ده. So she said, if she had studied, she would have succeeded. Another example, if she had had enough money last year, she would have bought a car. What does it mean? It means that she didn't have enough money last year, so she didn't buy a car. So it expresses again the past tense. So when we want to express the past tense, we use the third conditional. What does it express? It expresses either a wish, something we wished we had done, or regret, something we had done but we regret it. We are sorry that we did it. Look at this example. If the car hadn't broken down, I late for the match. Look, after if, we have hadn't broken, past perfect. So this is the third conditional. We are going to use would have plus past participle. So we are going to say, if the car hadn't broken down, I wouldn't have been late for the match. Question number 7, he took goals if he took part in the match. Again here we have if he took part in the match, took past simple. So here we are going to use will or would. We are going to use would, because when we have present we use will, when we have past we use would, and when we have past perfect we use would have plus past participle. Look at question number 8. If dinner is not ready, I without it. If dinner is not ready, here we have if and we have the present simple is. So we are going to use will or would. Yes, of course, we are going to use will. If dinner is not ready, I will go without it. Let's look at another example. If I know money, I would borrow some from you. Here we have the word would. So when we have the word would, we use present simple or past simple. Of course, we use past simple. So we are going to use if I had no money. If I had no money. طبعا ما نستخدمش had لأن احنا if we use had we should use would have borrowed. لكن أنا هنا عندي would والinfinitive يبقى هستخدم past simple اللي هو the past of have is had. Okay. So now we are going to discuss more about if conditionals, but we are going to do that on the mirror board. We are going to talk about unless, without, but for, and many other things related to if conditional. Let's go together. We are going to discuss more about conditional if. We talked about if. If you say, if you study, you will succeed. So here we have if type 1. If you study, it's a condition that you study in order to succeed. So if you study, you will succeed. So what is the opposite of if? The opposite of if is unless. The word unless means if not. If not. So if I say unless you study, كأننا بنقول if you don't study. هنا لما أقول unless you study, هل هقول you will succeed or you won't succeed? You won't succeed. Because here is the affirmative and here is the negative. If you study, you will succeed. Unless you study, unless means if you don't. So unless you study, you won't succeed. So here we use the negative form. Again, we have the word without. If I use without, I will say without studying, you won't succeed. So again, if you use without, you are going to use gerund or verb plus ing, without studying. Here we say unless you study, and here we say without studying, you won't succeed. So remember that unless is the negative of if, and without again give the negative meaning, but after without we use verb plus ing. As you have seen, we discussed together the grammar part, which is very important. If conditionals, we have taken 4 types of if. If 0, which express facts and habit. If type 1, which express something probable or promise or threat, something which we can do in the future. And if type 2, which expresses something improbable or something impossible. And if type 3, which is the only type which can express the past. I want you to do as many exercises as you can because, as you know, practice makes perfect. And till we meet again, wish you best of luck. Goodbye.
أولى ثانوي فرصة جديدة وحلم جديد وهنعديها بالتأكيد وهنعديها بالتأكيد أولى ثانوي